This is Margaret Lee, Special People and Places. I'm in a special place today, Athens, Georgia, University of Georgia campus, and we are at the Founders Memorial Garden. I'm talking with Maureen O'Brien. She is the horticulturist here. David Nichols, and David, you're the director here. You're also an associate professor, though, aren't you?
Okay. 5 classes a year in addition to the duties here.
All right. Now, this again, for many years, this was the headquarters house of the Garden Club. Built in 1857, the historic Greek Revival House with its adjacent kitchen building and smokehouse served as a pivotal point for the garden. The former smokehouse serves as a museum for the Ladies' Garden Club of Athens, referred to as the Memorial Room. The Garden Club of Georgia was headquartered here, and it was called the Headquarters House, but now it's reverted back to something else.
Well, sometimes it's called Lumpkin House because it was the first house on Lumpkin Street here at the university. We just call it Founders Memorial Garden House.
Oh, it is so beautiful, thanks to Maureen. It is.
Of students who work here. This is a teaching garden. And when it was created in the 1930s, Dean Owens, that was his intent. And so with the help of the wonderful Garden Club of Georgia, who helped fund all the great spaces through here, they created this wonderful garden. And it's used by many, many people at the university for teaching, not just the College of Environment Design, which is now the people who oversee it.
Well, what a fantastic job they've done, and wonderful people like you to continue and keep the gardens up. It's a wonderful thing. And if you two would just show us around a little bit.
Sure. You want to go to the museum here to begin with?
Okay. The original kitchen building serves as office space. The former smokehouse serves as a museum for the Ladies' Garden Club of Athens, referred to as the Memorial Room. The original kitchen building serves as office space. Today, the house contains offices as well as lecture and event space for the extended educational and outreach purposes of the College of Environment and Design.
This courtyard was named in honor of Bob Hill, or Robert Hill, who was a professor at the university in landscape architecture for over 30 years, and he was director of the garden for almost 20 at that time. So this is the Robert Hill courtyard.
Maureen, we are in the smokehouse.
Yes, this building was originally the smokehouse for the family that the whole building complex was built for in 1857, and they actually used it for smoking their meats. Now it is the memorial room to the first garden club in the United States called the Ladies' Garden Club. And that happened in Athens in 1891. So we're very proud that our state gets to host the first garden club, and this room is kind of reenacting some of the story of them. This painting was done, it's original oil painting here, for the New York Times Magazine, and the artist's rendition was kind of looking at what happened that day that Mrs. Lumpkin invited 11 of her friends together to start a garden club in Athens. And her brother was Dr. Newton, and there's a photograph of him in this, just right here. And Dr. Newton was a very community activist, and he wanted to put trees along the main corridors of Athens because we were pretty much a cotton town at that time, and we didn't have a lot of canopy. So he said to his sister, I think you need to help me out. And she was kind of complaining that she was feeling sort of low, and he said, you just need a project. So get some of your friends together and help me with this project. So she did. And this was recorded as the first garden club in the United States starting. So that, again, 1891, and this is the group. So over on this side of the memorial room, we have portraits of the individual women. That
Now, you said this is Mrs. Lumpkin right here.
Yes, this is Mary Bryan Thomas Lumpkin, and she was the woman who called in her friends to start the garden club. And this chair was actually in that room on that day, and it was recently donated to us by the Lumpkin family to put into this room. So
Now, this is Lumpkin Street, so it was named for that family.
it was named for the family. It was a very large family. Governor Lumpkin had a lot of holdings in Athens, and her husband was one of his relatives, yes.
Okay, and it was actually her brother that suggested that she take on that project.
That's correct. Dr. Newton was her brother.
She was a Newsom.
Newton, N-E-W-T-O-N. But in those days, Athens was about 95% in cotton. So we were a cotton community. That's why we were here. The university was here, but most of the people were employed by the cotton industry at that time. The university was quite small in 1891.
1891. What a wonderful idea they had. Let's get just a brief glimpse of those ladies. Now, Maureen, you said these are actual photos of those original 12.
They are. Obviously, some are shot later in their lives than others, but these are the first original ladies, yes.
Oh, what a treasure that chair is. Weren't you thrilled when that came in here?
We were. This whole garden is under the care of the College of Environment and Design, and under that we have our historic preservation program. Absolutely. This was Hubert Bond Owens, and he was the first department chair of the college. The department chair of the Department of Landscape Architecture, and it was at that time underneath the Ag School at UGA, and so they gave him this building and this site, 2.5 acres, to create a teaching garden. And with the help, like I said, of the Garden Club of Georgia, he created quite a beautiful place. But it was his faculty, his landscape architecture faculty, and his students who actually did the design work and oversaw the construction of the site here.
Fantastic job they did.
They did. And the college now has grown into being not just landscape architecture and historic preservation, but we now have a planning program also. And so they're quite huge, and they've moved away from the garden, but this is their original, this is what they consider their home too.
Well, Maureen, what's the significance of that blue ribbon?
The blue ribbon is one of the first flower shows that the Ladies Garden Club had, and actually this was their first flower show, and this is a representation of some that they had later on. But you know, being in garden clubs, the flower shows are very important to the garden club movement.
You can, as you pointed out, Maureen, the style of these designs, it's definitely dated, isn't it?
The use of the palms, I think, is what makes it look a little bit different from today's.
Maybe we should bring those back a little more.
I like that style.
Wasn't that a good idea?
Yes.
Good use.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was. Great idea.
David, tell us more about the house.
Well, the house was built in 1857. It served originally as a faculty residence for about 40 years. It was the old-fashioned 2-over-2, so there are 2 rooms on the lower floor, 2 rooms on the upper floor. There have been several wings that have been added on since that time. In the early 1900s, it served as a dormitory, also served as a cafeteria at one point in time, served as the home for the first Dean of Women at the University, Mary Linden, was the home for the first sorority at the University of Georgia. And then finally in the 1930s became the home of the landscape architecture program here at the University of Georgia. Currently, the College of Environment Design still sort of occupies it. We have some emeritus faculty that are in upstairs offices and on the wing over there on the far side. The area where we're standing is a time capsule that was put in by the State Garden Club of Georgia in 1991.
Oh, the 100-year anniversary of the founding, or the first garden club of Athens, or America.
Yep. And with the idea that it would be unearthed in 2091, so you'll have to come back and film for that. So,
oh my!
Get some pictures for that.
The time capsule, and the person responsible for that again was the same one that did the gardens, right?
Hubert Owens. I'm not sure how much involved he was, but the Garden Club of Georgia definitely was involved, and they wanted to commemorate that 100th-year anniversary.
Absolutely, but these stones came from a street.
Streets of Athens, right? A lot of towns had streets like this at one point in time. Then they were taken up and replaced with asphalt, but these were saved and were used for the paving here as well as some of the paving down the other part of the garden as well. So.
Well, this beautiful historic home used for many purposes, and again built in 1857. I think I read Greek Revival style started out.
I think that's correct. I just always remember the 2/2, which apparently was very popular in that time period.
What a wonderful idea, that time capsule. That was a great idea.
Would you like to walk up the steps and go in the house?
All right. Aren't these steps just beautiful? It's wider than normal, right? In those days, this door is wider. Well, for the day, I guess it was normal.
To accommodate those hoop skirts, yes.
Oh, you're right, Maureen.
Home here, yeah.
Yes. And look at the size of the baseboards.
So this was originally a 2-on-2 house with the main staircase in the middle, and you can see from the left-hand side the parlor is still kind of kept as a parlor area, and then the right-hand side is the dining room, and the bedrooms would have been upstairs. Now they're offices for our program.
Office spaces. Well, we can see the parlor then, right?
Step right in here.
Ooh, it's pretty.
And so we've kept this the way it is because we use the house as a rental sometimes to help us.
Period furnishings and with the ladies. Very authentic.
And yes, it is. It's really, and we appreciate that they left it here. And the curtains you see throughout the house were done in their time during their stay here.
Beautifully done, and what a lovely setting for weddings. I know that a few brides have enjoyed this thoroughly.
Yes, this year we had 5 weddings, and I think a lot of times this is the room that the brides dress in. There's a lot of laughter in this room.
Oh, yes. Really simple. One of the guys can take a look at the groom and say, "You're okay." But now the bride's a different story. These are definitely period pieces. Looks authentic.
And the wallpaper also was put in when Ladies Garden Club was here. And
I'm sure it was well researched, and it is period.
Yes, for the most part it is. It's very nice. And the great room is in the back of the house, and that was added in sometime before 1898.
It does not seem like it's an addition.
No, it was put on, I think, in the late 1890s when the house became part of the cafeteria and so forth. So. The portrait is of Hubert Owens. Hubert was the first landscape architect in Georgia, founded the landscape architecture program here. I think he came in 1926. And originally the landscape architecture program was sort of housed under agriculture related to horticulture. Eventually, he argued enough and got it separated into its own department. He was the brains behind the idea of designing the garden as a teaching garden, and apparently a very good salesman, because he was able to sell the idea across the state to all the garden clubs who funded the design and between 1939 and the mid-1940s. So, very good salesman, if he was nothing else.
Well, he had a wonderful idea, and he knew it. What a wonderful legacy to leave. He really left one, because that's a big deal. First garden club in the United States.
Yeah, he seized on the idea of it. He always had a close relationship with the garden clubs around Athens, but also Atlanta area, and he realized the potential for the garden clubs to fund his grand idea, the first one in the southeastern states. And a lot of the people who eventually founded programs in other states here in the southeast, many of them were University of Georgia graduates. So a lot of the like programs at the University of Florida, many of those faculty and administrators were University of Georgia graduates. So.
Oh my, the influence that man had.
Yes, he certainly did, throughout the southeast.
The Founders Memorial Garden currently contains over 300 varieties of trees, shrubs, vines, and ground covers. The Founders Memorial Garden has been recognized as a significant example of formal garden design, as well as a living laboratory of the diverse plants grown in the Piedmont region. The site is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and was recognized in 1999 as one of the outstanding examples of landscape architecture in America by the American Society of Landscape Architects.
What year was this dedicated?
Well, this is probably the last part of the garden to be completed. So probably it was completed around 1944 or something like that. The Ladies Garden Club had the idea in World War II. So if you look very closely, there's a plaque there beside the fountain that from the Ladies Garden Club to honor the service of all the World War II veterans. The cherub and goose, kind of interesting. The original fountain, the goose's head fell off about 10 years ago. It just got water into it, froze, and fell off. And we searched and searched to try to find a replacement for it. Could not find it. Put a sort of a temporary fountain up made out of aluminum, which the squirrels just chewed all up for a couple of years. And then finally, one of our former faculty members' wives, Jean Westmacott, was a sculptor. And she volunteered to create the original fountain again. So she gathered all the photographs that she could find of the original fountain. She created a clay mold. Myself, Maureen, and John Waters from our Historic Preservation Department went out to Oglethorpe County to look at it and approve it. And our jaws just dropped when we saw the clay mold, because it was it. Yes, but this is the identical replica to the original cherub and goose.
You would never know. You would never know. It wasn't the original.
Somebody who came here back in the 1960s, 1970s, and then returned now, they would think it's the original fountain. So she did a very good job.
Excellent job. You would never know that was not the original.
You may want to get a close-up of the plaque there, too.
Dedicated in lasting memory to all who served in World War II, to those who gave much, and to those who gave all. Wonderful sentiment.
small fountain and pool, banks of azaleas and other plants, various ground covers, stone walls, and paths augment this section of the garden and enhance the flow with the natural topography.
Maureen, this is a new marker here, isn't it?
Yes, we just got that this spring. We are very, very proud to be part of the Blue Star system. This is a memorial byway, and as it says, it's a tribute to the Armed Forces of America, Garden Club of Georgia, and the Azalea District. We are in the Azalea District. We are called the Founders Memorial Garden, and it's not just a memorial to the first founders of the Garden Club movement, but also after World War II, when this garden was established, we created a whole area that was in memory to those who had served in World War II. So we're also a founders memorial to the Armed Forces services, and so that is why we rated a Blue Star marker here.
That is impressive, isn't it? Isn't that wonderful?
We're very, very pleased that we have this year.
2016 is a milestone year in celebration of its 125th year of the Ladies Garden Club of Athens, Georgia, which was organized in 1891. The Garden Club of Georgia has commissioned 4 botanical prints. The original paintings will be on display at a reception on May 19th, 2016, at the Georgia Museum of Art. For more information on this, you may contact the ladiesgardenclub.org or call 706-207-6244 for more information.
Prints, and there's only 150 available of each of the whole sets.
When there's a limited edition, that always makes it more desirable, doesn't it? David, even though this room was an addition, the floor, the boards and the floor seem to match perfectly.
They do. This is hardwood pine, and so very large timbers. They're much thicker than what your floors would be for your home.
And they did a beautiful job of matching them.
And this room was added by the Morris family, which was the second family that was university faculty who lived here. But they lived here for 30 years. And the father was a faculty member, and he had 6 children in this house, and then that's why they added on this large room, I believe. And then after they left, this room, the whole complex became the student cafeteria. So you can see that there was a lot of activity in this room. Then after that, it was used for biology and sociology for a short while. And then in the 1920s, when the university allowed women to be on campus, Mary Linden was our first dean of women, and so she lived here. And so we had that activity. And then when she died suddenly of pneumonia, and yes, and so her national sorority, Phi Mu, had been looking for a place to have a sorority house on campus, so the university allowed this to be the first sorority house, too. So it's had a lot of history of people laughing and crying in this space, I think. And it was after the sorority house that it was then used for a women's dormitory for a while, and then Dean Owens was given the facilities for the landscape architecture program. So it's had a long, varied history here.
Oh, it has so many uses, but always used, and now people can use this for wedding receptions.
And we also use it for meetings, and we have faculty meetings and things like that in the great room right here. The upstairs are used as offices. Our certificate, environmental ethics certificate program is housed upstairs. And so it's still very actively used by students and faculty.
Also used still for classes. I mean, we have, was the Odyssey class comes here. I think there's a watercolor class that's taught in Maymester that uses the house.
This is in tribute to Jenny Tate Anderson for invaluable contributions of time, knowledge, and leadership as restoration chairman of the State Headquarters House, and is from the Garden Club of Georgia. on September 19th, 1984. And so all the beautiful furnishings that you saw in the house, Miss Anderson had a lot to do with helping raise some funds so that they could really recondition and make this a gorgeous place for the state headquarters for the Garden Clubs of Georgia. And so I think you knew Miss Anderson?
I did know her personally. She was a member of the Marietta Council of Garden Clubs. I knew her in the 1970s when I was a member of the Stonecrest Garden Club in Marietta. This lady, and as you can imagine the type person she was, she did so much for Cobb County, Georgia. It's just wonderful to see that.
Around Georgia, too. I have had a number of people come and ask where this plaque was because they remember her as a real go-getter and just a great woman. And so we thank her, as we thank so many wonderful people who have contributed to this garden. But Miss Anderson was one special one.
You're right. She was quite a worker.